Morning, Jim.
Good morning, Jay.
All right, so the Twins lose the first game of the series 4-1 against the Marlins last night. Tigers and Royals both win. The deficit is now 2 games. Not good, Jim.
No, I've been saying for a while that the emotions that people feel when they see the team lose are not important. The math is important. Now the math is as bad as the emotion. Now you're 2 games down with 5 left, and good Lord, they just can't score any runs. And, they're running some decent pitchers, but if you want to be a playoff team, you should beat a good pitcher here and there. Correa is actually swinging the bat fairly well. Other than that, Jeffers has fallen completely apart. Wallner isn't hitting lefty, so he can't be in the lineup every day, and he had his big slump already. I think Royce Lewis is actually doing the things you need to do to get out of a slump, which is hit line drives up the middle in the opposite way, but he's not the guy who's going to come up and hit a grand slam and win the game right now. Miranda has fallen into a slump after his brilliance mid-season. Julian can't hit. Santana was up in a lot of big situations last night. Santana's been very good for them ever since his first slump in April, and he didn't get any of the big hits they needed. It's just kind of sad to watch. They're just pathetic right now.
Yeah, and you expect, with Bailey Ober, second best pitcher on the team this year, that he's going to go out and shut him down. And the Marlins lost 99 games this year, and that they face Edward Cabrera, who has been hot lately, even though his ERA is +5. Are we to a point now, Jim, where we're looking at must wins?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because you're chasing multiple teams. Yeah, absolutely. They basically need to win. They probably need to win at least 4 or 5 and hope for some luck, or all 5, and that probably puts them in the right spot. But they put, and it sounds hard to do, but they put themselves in a situation. They've utterly collapsed. And I think the slump that began this all, I think, was largely because of injuries. Now you have Correa, Lewis, and Buxton in the lineup. You're healthy enough offensively, and you're not scoring any runs. There's really no excuse for it.
Jim, certainly if they were to miss the playoffs, which is feeling like they're going to do now, this has been, just a collapse. For the last 2-3 months, you've been telling me that their chances of making the playoffs is like 70, 80%, 90% in some cases, depending on where they're at. Certainly not good. No,
and, the math is the math. I would say by as recently as late August, they had a better than 90% chance of making the playoffs. So this is a collapse. This will be an epic collapse if they can't get into the playoffs. At this point, if they get into the playoffs, I'm not even sure how much confidence you could have in them. I thought all along, if you just get into the playoffs and you have, Pablo and Ober starting the first 2 games, you could beat anybody. But now I don't feel that way. Pablo gave it up in Boston on over the weekend. Ober didn't give it up as badly last night, but he didn't pitch the way you need one of your top pitchers to pitch in the clutch. It's kind of a pathetic team right now. And this is the second year they've won 3 of the last 5 division titles. Well, 3 of the last 6 now that Cleveland has won this one. They've also collapsed 2 of the last 3 years. I thought the 2022 collapse was all injuries. I just didn't think they could field a representative team when they were falling apart. Again, it's hard to say that about this team because the young pitchers have shown some life, and they have gotten their lineup about as healthy as you expect them to be at this point, and they're still not scoring runs.
Yeah, and it'd be easy, I suppose, to say, well, they didn't have healthy enough starting pitching. The bullpen has had some struggles, and those things are true. But the offense, 1 run against the Marlins.
That's the thing, is that, listen, the pitching injuries are real, and they have had to rely on rookies and very young starters. They have run, because of that, they've been short in the bullpen. Thielbar having a bad year was really crushing to them. Not having a lefty, either healthy or good, has cost them a lot. But, as I've been saying all along, I said at the trade deadline, this team's fate is going to be determined by its best players, not by some reliever you trade away for in late July or August. So I think it's on their best players. It's on Lewis, who has had a terrible run. It's on, I got to say, Correa's actually played pretty well. I can't really blame him. Buxton hasn't done enough. Jeffers hasn't done enough. Wallner, right at the point where you're saying this guy's the team MVP, he fell off. Julian has been terrible. Miranda's fallen off. They just, as a team, stopped hitting. And, they could have won a lot of these games where their pitching wasn't great. They could have won them if they were swinging the bats the way they were midseason.
All right, Jim, switching attention to something more positive. The Minnesota Lynx are going to play tonight. They take on Phoenix, second game of their series. They can close it out with a win and move on to the next round. Your thoughts on tonight's game?
Well, they should win. They're the better team. They're playing at home. This could end Diana Taurasi's career. It will end Diana Taurasi's career if they win tonight. She's one of the best players in women's basketball history, maybe the greatest ever. And as you saw during their run, during game one, Phoenix is very capable of being a tough team to beat. They have a lot of talent. The way the Lynx are playing, I do expect them to win. If they don't win, now you're having to fly to Phoenix. You have to play before a pretty passionate fan base in a big game on the road. It just makes things harder. It also means that you have less rest before the round two. So I actually think this is a fairly big game tonight. I expect them to win, but no guarantee.
Jim, as far as where this team is sitting, I mean, they finished as the number 2 seed. So winning a WNBA championship within reach?
Yes. Look at the way the Liberty was clearly the best team in the league all year, and the Lynx beat them, I think, 3 out of 4, including the Commissioner's Cup championship. They just recently won at New York. They've won at Connecticut in a big game for both teams. This team has been such a surprise coming off 2 bad seasons that it's easy to qualify and say, well, hey, no, they're just really good. They're really good. They're as good as anybody in the league. I think, if they have to go through Connecticut and New York, that's going to be very difficult. They're both excellent teams and very well-coached teams with superstars on their roster. But I don't think anything's beyond this team the way they're playing right now.
Jim, the Vikings are getting set to play the Packers on Sunday, big rivalry game. I suppose today is the first day that we're going to have some sort of practice report. We'll have at least some idea about, the health of Addison, Pace, Turner for the Vikings, whether Jordan Love's going to play. Your thoughts on the matchup against the Packers on Sunday and the health of some of the key players and how that might influence the game?
Yeah, I think the theme of this week is you have 2 relatively young offensive head coaches who have done wonders. O'Connell, what he's doing with Sam Darnold right now, the fact that he actually got a couple wins out of Josh Dobbs last year, who's probably a third quarterback in almost any system. The way the offense works, the way the culture works here. LaFleur deserves tons of credit, developing Jordan Love, having Malik Willis, who Tennessee couldn't wait to get rid of, step in and play brilliantly 2 games in a row. I think just 2 excellent head coaches, 2 excellent coaching staffs. Rosters are kind of different. The Packers are mostly homegrown. The Vikings have done very well in veteran free agency. So I just think it's a fascinating matchup. As far as injuries, we just don't know much here on Wednesday morning. I think Addison will be back. Not sure about Turner, not sure about Pace yet. We'll probably have a better idea by the time we talk tomorrow. And I don't know if the Packers want to let anybody know how Jordan Love's doing or if he can start on Sunday. I think they'd rather have the Vikings having to prepare for, 1 drop-back quarterback and 1 running quarterback.
As far as what Flores might be looking at, would they have different game plans for the 2 of them based on the different styles?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Love can run, but he's really a pocket passer who has the ability to run on occasion. Willis, they design, and that's one of the great things about LaFleur. Jordan Love runs a traditional drop-back passing offense. Willis, they put in RPOs and quarterback runs and all kinds of other stuff, take advantage of his skills, and he's played really well in that system. So, it's basically 2 completely different game plans.
Jim, the Vikings are the Gopher football team is going to play against Michigan on Saturday after what happened this past weekend, which we really didn't touch on too much, especially the second half that just kind of went in the tank for them against Iowa. Your thoughts on the Gopher football team, and can they win some games in the Big Ten?
I mean, you look at it now, and I was talking to a bunch of sports writers and some Gopher fans about this. I mean, this might be a 4 or 5 win season. And that's with, some talent on this roster. Daniel Jackson. If you told me that Brosmer was going to throw 2 touchdown passes and Daniel Jackson was going to have a big game, I would have said, okay, they're going to beat Iowa. Instead, they got destroyed. They got blown off the field in the second half, couldn't stand up physically to Iowa. That was bad. That was, given that Iowa isn't as talented as last year's Michigan national championship team, it felt a lot like the Michigan game last year where Michigan just ran it right down their throats and Gophers were absolutely helpless. So now you got to play Michigan. That doesn't look good. Playing USC doesn't look good. UCLA, right when you thought they were going to be an easy matchup, they played well this last weekend. And we could be looking at a serious losing streak here.
And it seems like every place that we've seen PJ Fleck go, and he's been here the longest. If you look at his track record, 3-4 years at each location, and they've always improved on their win total. But now he's been here a long time, and they have kind of plateaued. And do you feel, are they going backwards, or is it just the competition? What do you think?
I do think, we'll see how this year plays out. Sports are weird. Maybe they find something. They win some games we don't expect. I would say at this point, if they win 6 or 7 games, that's actually a pretty good season against this schedule and with the problems they're dealing with right now. And maybe we'll look at it differently. If this season goes in the tank, I think you really do have to question. And here's the thing. I know it's hard to win at Minnesota. There's no doubt about it. Glenn Mason, Georgia tried to hire Glenn Mason before he came here. He turned it down for personal reasons. He ends up coming up here, and he ends up hitting kind of that Gopher glass ceiling where he can't get past a certain place. Also lost a lot of close games he should have won. Jerry Kill. Jerry Kill's a very good football coach. Won a lot of games, won a lot of bowl games. And, of course, his health issues forced him to have to depart. But, there was a limit to how good you thought they could be, even with a good coach like Jerry Kill. Now you're seeing PJ Fleck come in with all the optimism. They have the great year. What was it, 2019? They have the one great year, and it just hasn't been the same since. So I really don't like bashing Gopher coaches because I think the job is a very difficult one. But what makes PJ a little more prone to criticism is every time something decent happens, he runs to the Board of Regents, he runs to the athletic director and asks for a massive raise. Well, what are you paying for at this point?
Jim, one last one for you. Former Viking quarterback Brett Favre says that he has Parkinson's disease. Thoughts on that?
Well, 2 completely different stories here. Number one is, of course, it's sad that he has Parkinson's disease, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. We also have to remember he revealed that while trying to earn sympathy while being, investigated and interviewed about stealing public money. They should have gone to poor people in Mississippi so he could build a volleyball court for his daughter's school. So 2 completely different stories, but they're both relevant.
All right, Jim, what do you got in your podcast?
Good stuff up today. The Viking Update Show with myself and John Krasinski talking about just what has made this Viking start so special. We have the John Krasinski Show out on the Timberwolves and the Lynx. Some really interesting stuff that Jason Tatum said. Also some interesting stuff that Chris Finch said about Jaden McDaniels. We get into that in depth as well as updating people on the Lynx. And we'll have Dawn Mitchell's show out today with she covers the Lynx. She also does work for the Big Ten Network and a lot of other places and covers Gopher volleyball as well. Sloan Martin, excellent young broadcaster who's making her way in the business. She's our guest, and we talk about a lot of sports with her. So everything's at talknorth.com or on your favorite podcast app. All
right, Jim, thank you. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thanks, Jen.
It's Jim Souhan, Star Tribune sports columnist, joining us every weekday morning at this time. Follow him on Twitter at SouhanStrib. Check out his latest column in the Star Tribune or his podcast at talknorth.com. And Jim, today is brought to you by the Green Mill in downtown St. Cloud. Next in WJON, news, we'll have world and national news from ABC.